Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pitch Us. So excited to have Joanna here today talking about what they're up to. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the pitch deck book. I've seen thousands of pitch decks and I really want to help people present better. So Joanna, please, share your screen and then pitch us.
Great. Hi. So I'm Joanna Shu. I'm co-founder and CEO of FreezeNit. We're coming up with a revolutionary solution for head lice. So Tim, can I ask you a question before I go any further? Has anyone in your family ever had a run-in with head lice? You don't have to name names.
Long time ago, but sure, yeah.
Okay, so you're familiar. It's every parent's worst nightmare. If you have elementary age school children, chances are you've gotten the dreaded letter, or you've had it in your home. And what that means for working families is minimum 1 week off of work, right? Daycare policy is they see anything, you're out for a week. So that can be the difference between keeping your job and not, for many working mothers, because usually it's mothers who end up taking time off work and trying to treat wiggly children, 3-year-olds with harsh pesticides. A lot of parents are not interested in doing that. And there's a lot of anxiety and stigma. Right now, we're doing a lot of customer interviews, and the stories we're hearing are just insane. So people, they won't even tell their best friends if their children have had lice. They put on, hats, dark sunglasses. They'll drive 2 towns away to buy a product from CVS. They won't talk to anyone in CVS. They won't tell their doctor. It is like, it's almost like an STD in terms of the shame. But I mean, in reality, it's just some bugs, right? It's not, you're not going to die from it, but it is, it has a lot of shame around it. And so what makes it worse than, when we were children and maybe, I didn't have lice, but I know, people in my family did. Now there's something called super lice. And so these lice are resistant to the stuff you can buy on the shelf at CVS. And those now make up the majority of cases in the United States. And so these little guys, they're super crafty. And they can survive drowning, and they even have a flea response. They know when a comb is coming and they can get out of there. So, we kind of have to come at it with, to fight them with, multiple, directions. So anyway, this is just a little look at what the market is right now. American Academy of Pediatrics estimated that in 2022, $500 million was spent on lice treatments. And we know that there's probably more treatment was going on because a lot of those people use wacky, crazy home remedies. Gasoline. Yep, we've heard that. WD-40, vinegar, mayonnaise, none of those are proven to work. And it really just adds to kind of the trauma around treatment and just serves to lengthen it. And we've talked to a number of people who said, I had lice my entire childhood and we never really got rid of it. I had super thick hair. My brother, they could shave his head, but not mine. And not me, but I'm just saying the customers we talk to, or, people will go eventually to their doctor and they will get a prescription of a powerful pesticide. Those are expensive. And so, or they'll pay hundreds of dollars for a specialty salon to, remove strand by strand removal. So it's really tedious. And we think we can come up with something better. So my co-founder, Dr. Carol Spangler-Vaughn, she's the brains behind this. I'm the non-technical co-founder, if you couldn't tell already. She spent decades in life science and cancer research. And part of that research, she came up with a way to kill head lice using only CO2 gas. And so she sponsored a capstone project at the University of Texas in Dallas. And these engineers came up with a proof of concept. And I will simplify. It is an elegant, simple solution, but I will make it even more simple since not all of us are engineers, myself included. It's basically a CO2 tank connected to a vortex tube. And the vortex tube, what it does is it separates the hot gas from the cold gas. So the hot gas is vented out the back. The cold gas goes through the tube to the bonnet. And what it does then is it simultaneously freezes and asphyxiates the lice. And that's important because if you just asphyxiate them, lice can hold their breath. They can hold their breath for 8 hours, those little rascals. But if you freeze them, well, they pop like popcorn, which is gross. And by the end of this, everyone who's listening is probably scratching their head. You can't actually get lice just by listening to me talk, even though it feels that way. And so this is going to be a really short treatment on the order of 10 to 15 minutes. and it's gentle on the scalp. There's the shortness of the treatment ensures that you have no risk of frostbite, and there's no potential for resistance or allergies. This is just what we think, what we would like the bonnet to look like. Like I said, right now we just have the proof of concept. So we have a device, the base works, the bonnet is not good enough, frankly. So what we're working on right now is the engineering work to make it a really good seal, to keep the gas in, to have controlled venting, but we want it to be comfortable and child friendly. And so I envision something like in the middle with the kitty ears. So kids won't be scared to put it on their heads, because that is a real issue, especially kids with sensory issues. They're not putting some weird, scary medical hat on. So, and this just kind of goes through again why the treatments that are currently on the market are deficient. They're messy. They don't work against super lice. They require multiple treatments. There's almost none that can hit it in a single treatment, because the eggs are really hard to kill. But like I said, we freeze them and they pop like yucky popcorn. And so we envision our price to be a little higher than the pesticide creams on the shelf at CVS, Walgreens, but cheaper than, and most parents end up honestly buying more than once, like a treatment, because it doesn't work, right? The first time, a lot of cases, or even kids don't use it properly. And I'm unfortunately a lice expert these days. My son got lice not too long ago, and I said, "You're not going to shampoo it out, right?" And he's like, "No, I won't." I look in the shower, he's shampooing it out. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought this was conditioner." So he's almost 10. He's old enough to know, but the kids are kids. So we have a plan for regulatory and consumer testing, partnering with a local nonprofit, headlice.org, or the National Pediculosis Association. And we are, there is some discussion whether we're going to be a wellness device with the FDA or a class 1 medical device, but exempt from the 510K. And that's because, for people who aren't familiar with med devices, class 1 medical device is a tongue depressor. So that's regulated as a medical device. So again, we don't think there's going to be a high bar in terms of regulatory. We've filed a provisional patent back in December, and there's no electricity. So that means no UL, and there's no moving parts. It's on and off. This is a little bit more about our team. Myself, my background, like I said, I'm non-technical, is in consumer products. I founded a skincare company, did that for about 10 years. Last year exited, and I was sort of a CPG hobo for the past couple of months until I started working at FreezeNit. By hobo, I mean consultant. And my co-founder, like I said, the brains behind the operation is Dr. Carol Spangler-Vaughn. She's worked for decades in life sciences and cancer research. And bringing medical products to market. We also have an advisor, Dr. Barbara Balstrieri of Harvard Medical School. And so her specialty is running clinical trials. So we don't need a full, robust FDA clinical trial, but we still want to know that it works, So she's going to be designing that for us and helping us with patient population selection and making sure it's written in the proper medical way. And we also have a highly qualified CFO, Lisa Molina, CPA. So we believe we'll be launching next year. So less than 12 months. We have, like I said, we've got our engineering work cut out for us. We've got some preliminary lice data we need to gather in the lab. And we just received our first funding. And so that's what that's being spent on, of course, like first check in and it's like right back out the door. We want to know exactly, because there's literature on killing lice with CO2. There's literature on killing lice with temperature, but not combining them. And so we need to know, is it 5 minutes? Is it 7 minutes? Is it 35%? Is it 32% CO2? So that's what we're working on right now with the lab. And that will guide our engineering discussions as well. And so again, my experience is in the goofy world of CPG. I put my products from Refresh, in Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, Rite Aid. They did a little thing about us in the New York Times. And so, I have full confidence that we can bring this consumer product, even though it's a little less sexy than skincare, that we can really make something out of it and make a go of it. And I know how to get products on the shelf. And like I said, this past year, that's what I've been working on for other brands. Now I want to do it for my own. This is just a little bit about our timeline, where we are at right now, and this is the engineering work that needs to be done. And we believe that by April we'll be design freeze, ready for production. And yeah, that's basically the highlights. You know, trying to kill head lice with CO2, and yeah. I don't know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer, and be gentle with me.
Yeah, no, this is great. I really appreciate you sharing. This is awesome. Very unique. I like seeing unique solutions to things that we don't think about. So let's start off with things that I really liked about the presentation, just as a whole. I liked your energy. That's a big thing. When we get people to present, some people can be very monotone, or like you had a good energy. You carried it all the way through. So that was awesome. One thing you did really, really neat was you kind of laid out the problem, which was lice initially. Then you kind of showed a little bit of the solution-y kind of thing with that, right? But then you're like, here's the bigger problem with is the super lice. A lot of times, and I'm just speaking to people in general, sometimes you need to frame the problem and then the current solutions and then why those current solutions aren't working. And I think we can tweak that a little bit better. But then get to like, here's the new problem, and now here's the real solution to the new problem that's arise. And I think that's kind of where you were going, but you did a good job setting that up. Okay. Overall, really interesting background from your perspective, and it makes sense why you're trying to bring it to this product. But overall, I thought it was just a very good, like, kind of beginning. Like, I don't know how many times you pitched this, but it was a good start. I'll say that.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, so that's a good start. So now what the show is for is really trying to help people make it better. Okay. So let's do that. Let's go back through this, and we'll go all the way to the beginning.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so this is a great slide. Let's go to the next one.
Okay.
So typically what I like to see is you ground yourself into the product itself, right? So I've been involved in CPG. I met the founder, right, of this product, and I knew I had to be involved. Like something along those lines that gets me to why it's like that. There's a question that comes into old pitch decks is why now, or why you? And if you can root yourself into the problem itself, like you had a child who had this problem recently, you could even start with that, right? Like, I will say you started off with a question, whether or not I've had lice or someone in my family. And the answer for most people in that case is probably yes. But I would steer away from that because my problem, I may never have had the problem, right? And it's almost everybody has experienced something with lice at some point in their life, but I would steer away from that, especially coaching other people. Stick away from that rhetorical question. You can just say, look, here's my experience. I met this lady. I had some experience in bringing product to market, and I knew this was the next big thing.
Okay.
Then you can go into some of these. So here's the problems in the industry as itself. So I would start off here. Like, let's go to go down. Go down. Okay. So I think you can start off with like lice is a huge problem. Tons of kids are affected by that. And here's the problem with the current solutions.
Okay.
Right? So the current solutions don't do this. They don't do this. They don't do this. And because of them, they actually created super lice. So we actually need a new solution.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this slide should be much earlier.
Yeah. So I would remove the right-hand side of it. And more focus on like this, more like they're harsh chemicals, they do these things, they do this thing. Like there's just, there's all these weird treatments or whatever. But think about that from like what's wrong with the current solutions and then bundle them all together.
All right.
Then calling them out right now. We'll call them out later, but like think about it as an industry.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Should it still be two separate pages, or do you think it should be combined into one?
So what I would say is, so whatever your problem statement is, you're going to break this down into kind of three things. And maybe maybe think about the 3 slides. You're going to have problem. You're like, lice is a huge issue. Therefore they created all these products. These products, right, have these problems, which created a new strand of lice.
I see.
Therefore, we created our solution that solves those. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So it's like problem, solution, the problems with that solution, and then your solution.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have that set up already, but now I think we can clean a lot of that up.
All right. That sounds good.
So the next, let's go back a little bit.
Okay. To here? Or
yeah, this is good. Okay. So we're here. We're talking about the big problem. They can survive drowning in water. I think there's some other things that they run away. These super bugs have this thing. So therefore, we built our product, and then this is when you should get into the product itself. The next slide.
Oh, I see. Got
Right.
it. So it should go. Yeah, I see. And it should go to here.
Yep. Next. So this lady, she did this thing, and you could even go into the next slide. Really. So here's our solution. Right. Okay. Now let me tell you what's happening here, and then you go into the next one, right?
Oh, I see.
Or you could do it this way. You could put what's happening on the left, and you could put the product on the right. Things like that. So on this slide, what I would do is you walked us through how it worked, and I think that's really important. But what you said and what's on the slide don't line up completely. So you said under 15, like under half an hour, but then you said 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
So I would call out that go back to the problems that you're mentioning with the current ones. And so then you're like, it doesn't use any of those chemicals. We use freezing, right? Does that make sense? You want to parallel the two.
I see. Got it.
It's a short treatment. Like what's wrong with the other ones is some of the treatments are super long. Ours is short. So that's how those are opposites.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Some are harsh on your scalp. Right here, you have gentle on the scalp, which is really, really small. But these are these are all the solutions, and then you can walk us through how it works.
Okay, got it.
Makes sense.
So it should be kind of, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say that here, but it's kind of by the time I get to this slide, I've said all this already. So
exactly. And I noticed that when you were presenting, you would kind of get to the problem, you'd bring up some more of the problems, and then you talk about the solution. You go to be like, oh, and there's more problems that I want to tell you about. Like just stick with all the problems in one location and then all the solution in one location.
Okay.
Cool.
I can do that.
All right. So next is revenue model. So here you talk about it for $80.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right. But this should be the next slide after the solution, I think. And this is how I coach people.
Okay.
So because the first question that most people ask is like, well, how much does it cost? Like, it's just a natural question. So you can bring that in. It's $80. Again, show the product. You can show your cost of goods sold on it, all that stuff. Just hit me with that slide and then go into the financial projections.
Oh, okay. So I'm missing a slide with the breakdown of cost and okay.
Yep. So let's go to your next slide, your projection slide.
Sure.
It's like down 3. So the reason why I like these together is we're talking about numbers. Let's stick with talking about numbers.
Right.
So if I know now, like you have no sales, it's basically the end of the year, it's the middle of the year. To get to 21,000 units, like what I'm doing as the investor is going, do I really think you guys can go from 0 to 21,000 next year without a fully developed product? Right. So that's like my gut check. I don't know. You guys could be amazing. Right. But like these are those gut checks that all angel or all VCs are doing when they're looking at these numbers. So I'm not saying this is a good or bad financial model, but just be able to back up if you get pushed on that 21,000.
Sure.
Because it seems like a lot, right? Like,
yeah, I think we had estimated that we would get one major retailer. And so we estimated about 2,000 doors. And so of those 2,000 doors, it was like 0.5 SKUs per week per door. So that's pretty average for a CPG item. It's actually quite on the low end. If you're at 0.2 or below, you get kicked off, but
Oh,
0.5 is, for a brand new product, that's not unheard of. So that's how we came up with that unit
okay.
number.
So
Mhm.
then what you could do at the bottom of this, so you have units, which is a good KPI.
Mhm.
You could add that additional information. So you could say number of store locations. So if
Okay.
you're like in 200 stores, now you're like, oh, that seems more reasonable.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So add that KPI on there. And then
Mhm.
again, you could even like you got all this space in the upper left. You could add
Yeah.
that level of detail that says, look, for one store that we're in, we assume 20 sales a year. And
Okay.
this is how our numbers come about. Right?
Got it. Mhm.
Cool. All right. So now we're talking about numbers. Let's stay with
Okay.
numbers.
Stay with
Then
numbers.
let's go into the market size.
Okay. So,
Right. So you did that like the third slide or something like that.
I'm all over the place.
Hey, no, it's okay. That's why we do this. So it's 500 spent on lice treatment. Yeah. So if 500 million was spent on lice treatment, how was the TAM 3.5 billion?
That's worldwide number of children positive for lice at any given time, which is about, I mean, it varies widely, but sorry, it's North America and Europe. 5.2% of the population are positive for lice at any given time. So,
Okay. And then your SOM is just America.
yeah, because for in the beginning, because that's all we could bite off and chew,
Sure,
I
sure.
think.
So what I would do is one of two things.
Okay.
I would highlight the number of people that have lice in a year
Okay.
worldwide, and then you would multiply that by 80, and that's where you get your TAM. And then I would not have a SAM and a SOM. I would just have the SOM as the 500 million
Oh, okay.
because you're going after the U.S. market. That's your first target.
I guess I thought Sam was, or I'm sorry, I guess I thought Sam was what percentage of the US market we thought we could get after.
Oh, great thought. Nope, it's all
Nope.
the people in the U.S. who you think, and you would say this: the U.S. market is 30 million kids, times 80, which is where our number came from.
Right. Oh, so the SOM is 500 million?
Yeah, the SOM is because that you're going after the US today,
I see.
right? So I wanted the people to be not confused by this. If you're going after a certain buyer type, like let's say, for example, you're selling to businesses with less than 50 people,
Mhm.
right? That's a subsegment of all businesses in the US, which is a subsegment of all businesses in the world. You kind of only have two buyer types. You have the whole world, and you're starting in one country.
I see.
That's
Okay,
why
so
it's 500.
I see.
Yeah,
So
because
what,
you're not saying, well, we're going to go after New York first.
right.
If you did that, then that your SOM would be like, we're targeting New York only to kick this
Mm,
product off. But you're really targeting kind of this consumer play, which is, US wide or, California or whatever.
so you recommend taking the TAM off completely
No, I
or
think TAM is good.
okay.
I would get rid of SAM and I would replace the SOM with the 500 million.
Okay. So
Because
no
that's,
SAM at all.
yeah, no SAM. In this case, you don't need it.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. In this case, you don't.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, if you were going to break down the US into something smaller, that would be your SOM.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now, to get back to your percentage of what you think you can own, if we
Mhm.
go back to your financial slide, which is down a couple,
Mhm. Yep, in a totally different area. Yep.
yep, that's totally fine. What we're looking at is if total revenue, I think the blue is total revenue, right?
Right. Mhm.
Okay, so make sure that makes sense. This looks like you have two products you're selling.
Oh, that's like,
Yeah.
expenses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so either remove expenses or make it like part of the other one. So like a stacked bar chart, you can show like
Okay.
the expenses and then you can show the revenue on top.
Okay.
This looks like two different products, but the so now it's saying like by year 20 or by year 2028, I look at this and I divide that 20 by the 500 million, and if I assume you're only staying in the US for the next 5 years, then I'm starting to run the numbers and be like, that's a pretty big market that you're going to own at this point. You know what I mean? So this is how all these charts work together is really what I'm trying to point out.
Okay. Got it.
Yep. So like you said, like in year 3, we're going to plan to go worldwide. Now I can see like, well, 20 million of 300 or 3.5 billion is actually pretty small. That's actually a good market penetration. So that you can see how those numbers all play together.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So moving forward, so we're in the market, right? Now we go back to competitors. So if it's such a good market, so you can either use, this is the better slide of the 2 markets or competition slides that you have.
Okay.
I call this an I love me slide. Like you have like all your check boxes and X's. And so I like these slides better than like, other ones. I think this is a really good slide. It's really what I'm trying to say.
Okay, great.
Okay. So now you go from here. So competition. I want to know traction. So what you did, you started to talk about what's been created so far in your solution. This is the next slide, which you don't have here, is traction. This is when you start talking about like, look, we've already got a patent. We have a bench test version. We have this. We have an FDA, whatever, blah blah blah, whatever the things that we've done so far.
Okay.
And then we talk about milestones moving forward. And the way that I would communicate that is we have our FDA study that's going to come up in the next 6 months. We are working on prototype 2 of the skull cap, right? And so what you've said is, in the way of phrasing this, you're basically saying, look, here's what we're building. Like you don't have to say, the way you said it was like, well, we haven't built it yet. And it's like, well, that's may be true, but you're like, look, we're going to version 1 of the skull prototype. And it just gives it a different
vibe for sure.
Yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. That's about right.
So it needs a page on traction separate from. Okay.
So take traction as one slide, everything up till today that you guys have accomplished.
Okay.
You can put the patent filings, you can do all the things, like you can show visuals or whatever. And then milestones are these key data point milestones that you are going to hit over the next, funding cycle. So the next 12 to 18 or 24 months, whatever you're raising for.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Now you go into your team slide.
Oh, look.
Yep.
It's in the right spot.
Yep. So there you go. So now you're saying, look, so who's the team that's going to execute on these milestones?
I see.
This is us. So we have the doctor, you have you who've got the CPG experience. And I think something that is really important, and you mentioned it here, is you kind of have 2 paths to market. Is one is this FDA doctor recommended kind of pathway, or a CPG pathway. I think medical devices in your arena are kind of going down both routes lately, which is really unique and awesome in my opinion. So I think what in that timeline of milestones, I think that's where you bring this up. You're like, look, we're going to go to market with our consumer version in 6 months while we build the FDA. Like we still have to do some clinical trials, but it's not like a full clinical trial, right? Like, which is later, but here's our 2 paths.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And you're like, we'll be in shelves 8 months from now.
Okay.
As a consumer product.
I see. So it needs another page that I don't have.
Oh yeah. So you did have this slide. I forgot about this one.
Yeah, but it's really engineering heavy.
Yeah.
So
So just go high level.
Okay. So back
prototype
it up.
A. Yeah. So testing and risk mitigation. You can put all these things in there, and those are important. But you could also do it like in either a Gantt chart. You can cut out like 85% of the words on this slide.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Cool.
What else? Do I need
Have you guys raised them 500 already?
No, we've raised a portion of that.
Okay. So because if we go backwards, right, and if we look at this, go back to the last slide. Go down one or up one. This slide right here.
Mhm.
So you have September to October. That's in 30 days.
Yeah, we're starting.
Okay, cool. Okay,
We have
just want to
enough
make
money
sure.
to move. Yeah.
Awesome. So okay, that's good. Good. We're fine then.
Do we have enough money to make it to March? No, but working on it.
Okay, that's cool. So yeah, I would add that all the way up to the end of this current funding cycle onto this slide.
Okay.
All right, so we got traction. Then your team slide's pretty good. And then go to the next, which would be the ask slide.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have that on here because I wasn't sure if I should. Yeah. So.
Okay, so you're currently raising $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do for this, this is awesome. Thanks for combining it all into one slide. Your contact information and the ask. In a future slide, you can put the terms of the ask and how much you've already raised as well.
Okay.
And then you also kind of want to reiterate. I like this, the 12 million use cases. I would get the ask a little earlier. Usually it comes like right away, and it's not buried. But you're like, look, there's 12 million use cases, and then also remind me what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, launch version 1, get the consumer product to market, and whatever those things are. And the other thing you could add, you don't have enough room in the way this is laid out, but you can also add the use of funds. So 40% is going to product, 20 to people, or whatever the breakdown of that is.
Okay. I have that on a big slide, but I can put that here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is really good. I think, again, I know I gave you a lot of feedback.
That's good. I'm going to rewatch and I'm going to fix this deck and get it right.
Perfect. Yeah. No, yeah. You're really close. I think just some of those tweaks, you'll find it'll help you with that story, just keeping it moving forward.
Yeah, because I end up, when I give the presentation, sometimes more informally, I find myself bouncing between, I'll go 3 slides forward and come back, and it's, so.
Yeah, this will help you keep, and I think what's nice when you go in that order is if someone's like, well, how much does it cost? And then you can actually like loop them back to wherever you want to take them into the story.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, and then I would also, you have the picture of the people. I know that's nice. Just bring the product back. Like, it's always better to reiterate what it is you're doing.
Okay.
If you can, and if it makes sense, try out different things.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Awesome. So with that being said, that's the feedback portion. Again, thanks for presenting. This was awesome. That we always tell people, based off of what we heard today, would we move this company onto due diligence? This is a product for me that I would really like to watch. I like this space of consumer products that don't have a ton of FDA approval. So this is a watch for me.
Okay.
But right now it's just a little too early, only for me because we don't have version 1 of the product functional and working. But that doesn't mean other people wouldn't. I'm just saying, for me and my thesis, it's just a little too early. But it is a watch for me.
Cool. Well, then I'll come back around next year.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. Well, Joanna, this is great. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up. And if you guys are out there looking for help, please apply at pitchus.io. We love helping people do this. It's really fun. And we hope people start pitching better. That's really the ultimate goal.
Thank
we'll see
you
you all
so much
next time.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then hang out for a little bit.
Okay.